Hello, everyone. This is W, aka William. Welcome to a very special event. That is right, High Art on the Edge. We're here with a very special guest, but before I bring our guest in, I want to give you a little background as to why we are here and what we're going to be celebrating. So, in 1992, I was a red-eyed and tired from busy Sunday. One of my favorite rituals was to plunk my lazy body on the couch and watch a show called 120 Minutes MTV. It was either with the great Dave Kendall or maybe the late Louis Largent to introduce this silver tone video. From the program drumbeat to the caustic lyrics, I fell in love with the presentation immediately. I appreciated the swinging camera shots of David J. moving about in an understated room and gazing into the camera with a piercing stare. Don't get me started on his hand gestures. This video, Candy on the Cross, was shot in gorgeous black and white. I somehow connected to what was happening on that screen. As the song took great hold of me, I took it everywhere I went in 1992, including my walks around the Bay Area, San Francisco, and then in 1994, I studied at London, the University of London Union. In fact, in that song, David utters the words Caledonian Road, and that stuck with me. So I decided to pay a visit to the Piccadilly line station and soak in the song as I paced my walk purposely around that area. I felt David's presence deep inside my psyche, filling up with glorious images of broken societal members. I was inside the skin of the song. It had soulful wings to provide the lift I needed to get through the day. Here we are today to pay our respects to this 1992 album that is going to be released tomorrow on Record Store Day, Urbane. Let's bring in David J. Hello, David. How are you?
Hello, W. I'm all
Nice.
right. I got a bit flustered there because we had some technical problems. But
Not a
between you and my very clever Gen X girlfriend, we sorted it, or you sorted it.
I'm glad we got that fixed. Not a problem. You have some
Yeah.
friends here that are saying hello. By the
Hello.
way, if you're tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm going to tell everyone kind of the order in which this album listening party is going to happen and transpire. So before we do that, David, I just want to ask you before we actually listen to the album, when was the last time you listened to it in full, and what kind of memories did that stir?
Well, the last time was actually 2 nights ago because
Yeah, how'd that feel?
I had this coming up, and it was the re-release on vinyl. Actually, not I don't have it as I don't have an actual copy of the proper vinyl. I have the test pressing. Um, uh, and I'm really glad it's on vinyl because originally it was only on CD,
That's right.
and I love vinyl, and I always wanted it to come out on vinyl. And I was approached by School Kids Records, which is a label associated with Record Store Day, and they wanted to release it. And fortunately, I'd just become the owner because up until really last year, it was tied up legally, and it was not. I didn't own it. It was still with MCA, so it was up for grabs, and they put it out. And I'm really glad that they're the label that's putting it out because they take such care in their product, and it sounds great. And I mean, the design's really the design is very special to me. I think it's probably the best record sleeve design I've had, and it won some awards when it came out in the early 90s. But it really lends itself to the larger format of the vinyl release. You know, I've got the original CD here,
Yeah, yeah.
and the photography is brilliant by Mitch Jenkins, my old pal, who's great, and a very clever design. Because if I show you here, Mitch also directed that video, so it all ties in the video you referred to. But what I love here is like how the CD
Yes.
just sort of is a continuation of the image. there.
And that's something we're going to talk about, your connection and relationship with not only Mitch, but other players, if you will, on this album.
Yeah,
So looking forward to that. By the way, everyone, if you have questions for David, he's going to field and take these questions towards the end. So just to let you know.
yeah,
So David, I also understand that you are, which we'll get into much more. You're also you have a tour coming up. Is that correct?
yeah. Love and Rockets tour. Yeah,
Great. We'll talk about that and some other stuff. Okay, so um, this is how an album listening party works for people tuning in. So you're going to find the album. If you have it on CD, great. If you want to stream it, it's on Spotify. It's on most platforms, Amazon, Apple. So in a couple minutes, you're going to get Urbane loaded up on your device. And then when I say hit it, which is what HI stands for, you're going to hit play on your device. And then you're going to listen to the album at your own pleasure at home. And then you can type in comments along. How do the songs make you feel? What connections do you have with these songs? Any memories of the album when it came out? Anything you want to share? And then as we move through the songs, um, I'll be typing some comments as well. And then after we listen to the entire album, I put together a nice little encore package that I will share with everybody, the link. And these are some encore songs that are not on the album. They're from David's other albums. And then we will do a Q&A with David, and then we'll be done. So that's kind of how the order of operations here will work.
yeah. Can I just say, W, about my own comments as well? And that's the reason I listened to the album the other night, was just to refresh my memory of it and just to see it, any memories that came up. And so I wrote these down, and then I was going to cut and paste them today, but as you know, I had a technical hitch and a generational hitch as well.
Not a problem. Not a problem. All good. So we have a bunch of people here.
Yes, I got a bit confused there. Anyway, we can't quite work it out so that I can do that. So I have sent a file to our host here, and he's going to endeavor to post for me.
Yes, right? I'm going to do the best I can.
Yes.
We'll make it all work. So I just want to acknowledge some people that are here that are saying hello. We have Silvestri, from the Bay Area. Hello, Silvestri. We have Jeanette. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing anybody's name. Vincent is here. Hello, Vincent. Kai is here from Hamburg, Germany.
Surprise.
Heather from Eugene, Oregon. Oh, Jack is here. Hey, Jack. Nice to see you. Christy is here. Liz, Ed, and more people tuning in. Oh, Ed's all tuning in from Croatia. Pretty cool.
Hi, Christy. I think Christy is the person involved in the next possible debacle.
Okay.
I just alerted her to the fact that it's all running a bit late.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyways, okay, everyone, get Urbane up and loaded on your device right now, please. And then to help people follow along, what I'm going to do is write the name of the song in the box, the comment box, so you can kind of track along without feeling lost. All right. David, thank you for this opportunity. I'm super excited to unpack this amazing album and kind of get inside the nooks and crannies of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, are you ready? So when I say hit it, you're going to hit play on your device. And then, David, if you want to mute your screen, you can. Okay.
Will do.
All right, everyone, here we go. Urbane, special record store release tomorrow, 1992 release. Enjoy. Hit it. That was Some Big City. Great way to kick off the album. Oh, yeah, that was a man of influential taste. Thank you for tuning in. My name is W. High Art on the Edge, celebrating Urbane album, Smash Princess. tuning in. High Art on the Edge. That was Smash Princess. Let's transition. 10 Little Beauty Queens. What an amazing song. Here it comes. Candy on the Cross. Turn it up, loud and proud. All right, here comes the big chorus. Sing it loud. A classic. Space Cowboy. Was that his most accessible song? Space Cowboy, High Art on the Edge. Thank you for tuning in. We have Serial Killer Blues. Little bit of Tinseltown. You recognize who has helped him on this track? Gotta give up your soul in Tinseltown. Bouquets, wreaths, and laurels. Hoagie Carmichael never went to New Orleans. Bravo, David. I'll have to unmute you here. Oh, can you unmute yourself?
Okay.
There you
Sorry. This picture I held up, it's a series of limited edition postcards that the label made for the album.
Oh, very
This
nice.
is 4 tracks. This is Candy on the Cross.
Oh,
They're great. These this is Some Big City.
got it.
Yeah.
Wait, who did the work there?
You know, I'm trying to recall. I can't remember the guy's name. I wish I could.
Yeah.
But they're like woodcuts, you know.
Yeah.
This is for the last track that just played, Hoagie Carmichael Never Went to New Orleans. And then, I can't reach it. It's Tinseltown up there. Yeah, anyway, the limited edition, I've only got these framed copies myself. I don't know how many they did, but they're nice.
I wonder if the person that did the work is actually on here.
Oh, if he is, I apologize.
Oh, that would be awesome.
for not remembering your name, but nice job.
Yeah, that, as Vincent says, impressive. Yeah, I agree, Vincent. Thank you, everyone, for listening to that album. I hope you had a great experience kind of retracing those steps. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to move right quickly into the encore tracks. And I'm going to post a link here in a second. The encore tracks will be linked up to Spotify. And if you don't have Spotify, I will give you the title of the tracks now, and then you can load them up yourselves. So we're going to start with I Hear Only Silence Now from the Etiquette of Violence album. And then we're going to go into track number 2, I Hear Only Silence Now from the album Missive to an Angel, from the Halls of Infamy and Allure. Did I get that right, David?
You did, and it's missives, so it's plural.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And then we have Sweet Anastasia from the album Songs from Another Season. And then we'll wrap it up with In the Great Blue Whenever from the Estranged album. So I'm going to put the link right here for everybody. You will see it's called David J. Encore. I'll share it with you all right now. And just like for Urbane, you can play the songs from your device at home. Again, if you do not have Spotify, you're kind of on your own there. I Hear Only Silence Now, both times, Sweet Anastasia, and then we'll wrap it up with In the Great Blue Whenever. So when I say hit it, you're going to hit play on your device and enjoy these encore tracks. And then we'll get into the Q&A and some good stuff. Thanks again, everyone. Enjoy the encore. And hit it. Absolutely breathtaking. High Art on the Edge here with David J. Encore Tunes. This is my favorite track from Songs from Another Season. Sweet Anesthesia. Final track in the great blue whenever. Soak it all up. Oh, bravo. Hats off to you. And hats off to everyone participating in this Very special album listening party, Urban Urbane. We're here with David J. I'm William, aka W, High Art on the Edge. So, David, after listening to it now, second time in the last few days, anything different? Anything before we really take a deep dive? Anything that bubbled to the surface for you?
Uh, Maximilian Ryder's sterling guitar work throughout the album, just sublime.
Yeah.
It was just so great to have him there with me. Uh, yeah, you know,
You have,
he was
go
very
ahead.
simpatico. Anyway, yes,
Yeah, no, you have some wonderful companions on that album, which we'll talk
yeah,
about in a little
oh yeah,
bit.
yeah, and that's really dictated my selections for the albums. You advised me to select some records.
Great, great. Looking forward to hearing about those. Um, so before we unpack and we kind of unearth all the little stories behind the album, I want to go back to kind of more of your childhood experiences. Anything you want to share with the audience, your fans, about growing up in England, particularly where you grew up? Any experiences you'd like to reveal? We'd love to hear it.
Well, relating to that album, I mean, that album was recorded in America. Half of it was recorded in New York City, and half of it was recorded in Los Angeles. Although the seeds of it were recorded in Guilsborough in Northamptonshire. So it's a bit of England and a lot of America. And America was always growing up in England in the 60s and 70s. America really had this allure. It was very romantic. And then when I got into music, I mean, a lot of the music that I loved initially and still do, it came from America, like Iggy Pop and the Stooges, Velvet Underground, uh, bands like that, all the West Coast, like psychedelic bands. So, and rock and roll, of course, the early rock and roll, the original, you know, Sun Records and all of that. So it had this enormous sort of glamour, really. So to go to America and record there, to record this album there was quite a very satisfying thrill for me.
Sure,
I
sure.
grew up in Northampton, um, in a very ordinary, semi-detached house in a street called Headlands. My mum and dad were they were from very working class background, pretty poor. My mum came from Birmingham, which is just north of Northampton. My dad was from Northampton, but they were industrious, especially my mum. She was quite savvy business wise. And they opened a newsagent, a tobacconist, which was quite successful. So they made a bit of money and sort of upped their status to that of, you would call it, middle class, I suppose. And but they still always maintain their sort of working class roots and attitude.
Mhm.
So I was steeped in that, and because my grandparents were from that strata, so very working class. And the same with the other members of Love and Rockets and Peter in Bauhaus. His family were really pretty poor, Irish immigrants. It's all working class, kids, like
Yeah.
struggling. And one way out of the horror of being employed in a factory or in some low level mundane job was music. It was either music or football, soccer, you would say. And initially, I wanted to be a footballer. I wanted to be George Best, who was my hero.
Nice.
In the 60s, I had his poster up above my bed. Before I had any rock stars up, before I had Mark Bolan, there was George Best. But then I mean, I was good. I was okay at football. I wasn't great, but I just, I had romantic ideals, But then I broke my leg really badly when I was 14 and put me in
How did you do
hospital. I was tackled playing the game by uh, a kid who was just got a bit carried away and did he did this tackle that was just gnarly, and I broke my ankle really badly. They thought I was going to have one leg a foot shorter than the other. I was 14 at the time, and ripped up my cartilage, and yeah, it was really a really bad accident. Um, so I ended up in hospital for quite a while, and actually had this moment of epiphany when I was in hospital, recovering. I was in this ward with all these grown-up men. I was the only kid in there, and I remember this quite distinctly. One afternoon, it was in the summer, and they had the windows open, and there were shafts of sunlight coming in. And I remember seeing all these dust motes, and I was on some sort of heavy duty painkiller. So I was tripping out a bit. And they had Radio 1 on. They'd play Radio 1 all day. And what came on was T Rex,
that?
Hot Love. And that just sent me into this trance. I just went somewhere. And all the chatter and the noises in the hospital, in the ward, just all faded away. And that I just focused on that song, and it transported me. And when it ended, I was in a daze, but I realized in that moment I wanted to pursue music. I wanted to go into that world, inhabit that world in some way, and not football.
So we could say that you getting hurt was a blessing.
You, yeah, yeah. It was football's game for sure. Whether it was music's game, I don't know. Was it music's loss? No, I don't. I can't be falsely, modest like that. No, it was. I mean, it was a pivotal moment.
Yeah.
And I joined the T Rex fan club, the only fan club I've been a member of. And there's a connection with the album here that I just thought of, which is that this album is also graced by the playing of Danny Thompson, great bass player,
Mm-hmm.
who played with Tyrannosaurus Rex and knew Mark Bolan very well. In fact, Mark would go around to his flat and write a lot of the songs that became T-Rex songs later on. And he was very close to Mark. I mean, we chatted about this because Danny had played with so many great artists like Nick Drake, Tim Buckley, John Martin, Richard Thompson, who he still plays with, and I didn't know that I didn't know that he played with Tyrannosaurus Rex, because I said to him, out of all the those artists you play with, who do you remember most fondly? And he didn't hesitate. He said, "Oh, Mark Bolan." Said, yeah, Mark Bolan. So, "Oh yeah, mate, I was on his real Cockney. I was on all those Tyrannosaurus Rex albums." Mark was a lovely boy. He's come around my flat and have a cup of tea and write all them songs. Yeah, so really, and it was very weird because I had Danny playing on two of the tracks, Pilgrims, Martyrs, and Saints, and Bouquets, Wreaths, and Laurels, and he plays so beautifully on both of those. And this is that we had this chat at the end of the day after he'd done his bits, and myself and the percussionist drummer had a Bolan session the night before, and we were listening to all these T-Rex songs and playing videos, and we decided to jam along to Spaceball Ricochet, and Steve was playing the bongos and I was strumming along the acoustic. It was sounding good, so we thought, hey, maybe we can record this, if we have time when Danny's done. So that was our plan. So as soon as Danny said he played with Mark Bolan, now how fondly he remembered him, I said, "Danny, I'm going to throw you a curveball here." And I told him about our idea. I said, "Would you be into playing on this track?" He goes, "Oh yeah, mate. And I'll tell you what, I don't want paying. I'll do it for love, and I'll do it for Mark."
Nice.
So he did, and he played on it. We did it in one take, all playing together, and that was that same day that we recorded those other two tracks, and it turned out really, really well. I was thinking about including that as one of the extra tracks on the vinyl, but then I decided at the end of the day to just have my original songs.
Got it.
But I would like to put that out in some way
Yeah.
in the future. But yeah, can I go into the albums now? Can I go into my choices? Kind of a natural segue. Do you want me to do that now?
Wherever. We're just
As I
having a
said,
good conversation.
because it dictated my selection here. So this one, Tim Buckley live. Danny plays on this, and this is a wonderful live album. Yeah,
When was that released?
1968.
Okay. So what
Yeah.
about Tim Buckley speaks to you?
Oh yeah, yeah, wonderful.
Well, what do you enjoy about the music?
What is it?
Yeah,
Well, I mean, superb songwriter.
yeah.
There's just something very haunting about those songs, and tortured. And he was obviously a tortured individual
Hmm.
and wasn't around very long. And he had his demons for sure. Very sensitive artist. Uh, Not a very good father to Jeff, you know. But a wonderful musician. And the way Danny plays with him, they're very much simpatico, you know. Another album that Danny played on is this from John Martin. It's one of my favorite albums, Solid Air. And Solid Air is a track that the title track is about Nick Drake, who's another absolute love of mine. And Danny plays on that one. Shall I go on to the other?
Yeah. I had a question about that Tim
Yeah.
Buckley one. Is that the
Yes.
Chicago? Where was that? Live at where?
London.
London. Okay.
London. Yeah, it's called Live in London.
Okay. And that came out in 68, you said?
Yeah, it was recorded in 68. This edition came out in 1990.
Right.
I think that was the first time it was released.
And
It's
it's
a
called
superb recording. Great.
Yeah. Okay.
Really captures Tim Buckley at his peak, I think.
And how many tracks on that one?
Oh, it's about 18 songs.
Great.
Full set, acoustic.
Gonna have to take a listen to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep rolling.
Okay. Well, another guest. I was delighted to have him on board. T-Bone Burnett.
Yeah.
This is an EP. I've got a weird echo on my voice. I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, yes. This is the first thing I bought by T-Bone, and I actually covered one of these songs on the back. Having a wonderful time. Wish you were her.
So I gotta ask, how does someone get T-Bone Burnett?
Well, when I signed this deal with MCA, and they wanted me to have a producer, and they sort of gave me carte blanche. They said, "Go and who's your dream producer?" So the first one I thought of was T-Bone Burnett. So I didn't have any. I'd never met him. I didn't have any contact for him, but I found out the address of his manager in the States, and I'd recorded some demos for the Urbane on a cassette, and I just sent it to his manager. And then I didn't hear back. I've kind of forgotten all about it. I left my phone, wrote a little letter, and I put my phone number down. And then one night, I got a phone call. My missus picked it up, and they said, "David, it's a T-Bone Burnett for you, T-Bone." I thought it was one of my mates having a joke, because I told them about this, you know. But, oh yeah, I said, "Hello, T-Bone, is it? Hello, T-Bone." He goes, "Yeah, David, is that David?" "Yes, it's David. You know it's David." He's like, "What, man?" It's like, I thought, oh, wait a minute. Oh, bloody hell, it's him. And it was T-Bone. And he really liked the demos. He loved the demos, and he went into great detail, like track by track, there and then on the phone, what he likes about them, how he saw them, and his vision and all this. And he really wanted to do it. So, and I was over the moon. But then when it came to actually doing it, he's well, I was going to say our calendars conflicted, but it was really his workload because he was very much in demand then, and he's also playing, his own stuff out. So it didn't work out. We couldn't quite do it. Couldn't work it out. I was still, and I was just coming off of Love and Rockets tour as well. But he said, look, if I can't produce it, let me play on it at least. I said, oh, yes, please. And so we worked it out, for him to come in one day, and he played on Tinseltown, and he was just full of ideas. Especially, I love the guitar parts he played on that. They really add so much. And then he said, "Can I sing on this?" It's like, what? He said, "I really like these lyrics. I got a harmony idea. Can I?" It was like very enthusiastic. I said, "Yeah, anything you want to do."
Right.
Okay. And he did that great vocal harmony on the end. And then he said, I'm hearing sound. I'm hearing the sound of hand claps. I said, sounds great. Okay, I know this. And he said, I know the secret of, getting the great hand clap sound. And I said, oh, what's that? He said, oh, it's not like, they say like wet your hands and they back off the mic and you like have a group doing it all at the same time. It's not that. I'm not going to say what it is. I'm not going to give the secret.
Oh.
But it's if you listen, that's him doing the hand claps, and it sounds great. I'll tell you what it is. It's just one guy in a room. Slap a bit of reverb on it. That's it. Just one guy. Yeah, don't double track it. Just one guy, one time. Reverb. He's sorted.
So okay,
we would hang out as well at that time. We'd go and have lunch together, have some drinks, and he took me on a studio tour once. And yeah, I didn't see him for a long while. And this is interesting. It relates to the whole record store day because we kind of lost touch. And then a couple of years ago, I had a release for my single, the Pro Gun Control 45 Thoughts and Prayers. And he had a new album out, and he was in rough trade in New York at that time when we met up again, and we had a reunion. That was great, and we were reminiscing about recording Urbane that time.
So what makes T-Bone so extraordinary as a producer? What do his ears provide and give?
Well, I saw him in action in that. In fact, we were studio hopping because he was simultaneously producing 3 albums, and we went to the 3 studios, and I saw him in action. He was doing one album by Bruce Cockburn, one by Sam Phillips, who was his wife at the time, and one the soundtrack to a movie, Nashville country music movie. And that was really interesting, just being a fly on the wall,
Yeah.
And what I gathered was that he's very intuitive and very spontaneous, and there are no rules really. And he's like he was in the session, just bursting with ideas.
Yeah.
Very, very sharp mind.
Yeah.
And very open-minded. And he listens to other people's input and asks for opinions, and there's no ego there. And
sounds very collaborative.
Very, yeah. And just tuning in, I think he's very sensitive, and he tunes into the artist and the artist's sort of disposition and their mood at the time, and I got that sense. So that was really.
I think he really gained status and recognition because of the Coen brothers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Did a lot of work with them. Yeah. One interesting thing I remember very well is with the Sam Phillips record, he wanted to get this particular kind of guitar sound that was in his head. It was already recorded. And then what he did was he set up this thing in the setup in the studio where he had all these different amps, like in a circle, and little practice amps and broken amps and AC30 here. And he put a microphone in the middle of the circle and fed the guitar, pre-recorded guitar, through all these amps simultaneously and recorded the effect. And it sounded amazing.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
What
When we went to see Bruce Coburn, he had all these machine guns in there, hand grenades on the speakers, ammo, oxygen bullets, bullet belts hanging all over the place. And I just, kept quiet.
Yeah.
And until we left, I said, T-Bone, what's with all the ammo? I thought we were going to war. He said, oh no, yeah, man. He likes to. He just has all that. He said those hand grenades, they're live. All that ammo's live, and he said he just likes to have an edge.
Yeah.
He likes it instills an edge in the room. It's just just it gives an atmosphere.
That's almost like a character from a Coen Brothers movie. I mean, that would fit perfectly.
Yeah. But he's not like a warmongering guy. He's the opposite. But it's and he's sort of kicking against that. But
right.
Yeah, it was very eccentric.
Do you have any other albums you want to share?
Yeah, on Space Cowboy, we have Mr. Sonic Boom from Spaceman 3 on guitar. Sonic Boom, aka Pete Kember, who I met years and years ago when Spaceman 3 were just starting. That was actually Pat Fish, Jazz Butcher, who introduced me to them. So Pat kind of discovered them. And they were just playing in pubs around Northamptonshire at the time. I saw them at the old Five Bells and just loved them. And then we, as Love and Rockets, invited them on tour with us. And they opened for us, and that was great. Yeah, really brilliant. I love what Pete's doing at the moment with Panda Bear, the new record they recorded in Portugal. It sounds really great.
A friend of mine just saw them last night. I think in Glasgow or Edinburgh.
Sonic and Panda Bear.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't know they were on tour.
So I'm hoping they come to the States. I think they're going to do some spring and maybe some summer festivals, maybe. But
yeah, I love that record.
So tell us a little bit more about working with Peter. And so what does he bring to the mix, to the conversations, to the compositions and arrangements?
Do you mean Peter Milson or Murphy?
Peter Kemper.
Milson, aka Max Ida.
No, Sonic Boom.
Oh, Sonic Boom, Peter.
Yeah.
I don't know. Think of him as Peter. Okay. What does he bring? Again, very intuitive. Very just spontaneous. Again, free flowing attitude. Mm-hmm. Just feeling it. I don't think I think what he plays on Space Cowboy, he hadn't even listened to the track, and he just let it roll and just felt what he felt.
Yeah.
Did a few multiple tracks, which sounds great because you get those dissonant, different sounds sort of rubbing up against each other, and it makes a rich kind of tone. I thought he would be perfect for that song because it's a total drug song. It's just a metaphor for taking drugs, really. Obviously.
And you still keep in touch with him?
Yeah, I'm still in touch. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in Portugal at the moment. very much enjoying it out there. I love Portugal.
No, yeah, he's been doing some great work for a long time.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's solo. The last couple of solo albums I love.
yep, really
Yeah,
good
and but
stuff.
also, I mean, also Jason in Spiritualize. I mean, recently, made a
Yeah,
wonderful album. I saw them play here in LA at the Fonda, and that was such an inspired gig.
yeah,
And the actual, I mean, the level, the volume level was perfect. So these days, I find a lot of bands they over crank it. It's unnecessary, but they kept the volume down, so you could hear all the subtleties in it. And there is a lot of subtlety in spiritualized music.
yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's great.
and he just, I don't know if he was standing up the whole time or sitting in his chair, but he just loses
He
himself in the
was,
music. Doesn't
he
say
was
much.
sitting.
Just, yeah,
Oh
I
yeah, it
love
was very much that feeling. Yeah,
just
in
letting everyone
losing his
enjoy the
mind.
so I love. Any
Mhm.
other albums you want to share?
I got one more. This one, Mose Allison.
Tell
And
us about it.
yeah, I picked this jazz record because when the other Peter Milson, aka Max Ida, and I was staying in New York, we stayed at the Gramercy Park Hotel for the duration of those sessions. And one time we were just strolling down the street and we passed this jazz club called Fat Tuesdays, and we saw there was like a chalkboard outside saying tonight Mose Allison. We're like, what? So we went to that gig and down in the basement and saw him play two amazing sets. And I think some of that rubbed off on a man of influential taste. It's got a bit of a Mose Allison thing going on. I
I
love
could hear.
Mose Allison. Right? His whole kind of well, his lyrics are great and just this sort of sardonic
Yeah.
uh, stance he takes and his unique delivery, which is very influential, I think, on people like Georgie Fame, you know, took a lot. Well, he admitted he says, he recognizes Mose Allison as a big influence and consequent like Van Morrison as well. So it was great to catch that set in New York at that time.
So I want to go all the way back to your childhood and connect it to what you just said because um, your ears are so diversified in terms of what you listen to. So who kind of paved the way for you in terms of music? Did you have like a friend, an uncle, your parents, or was this kind of self-taught along the way? Or your brother,
Uh,
perhaps?
no, not my brother. I mean, he's younger than me. It
Yeah.
was the other way around as far as influencing people, each other with music. Um,
Did you
I
have
had a
some
mate
cl-
on the road, Richard Miller, who was into soul, old soul records. So he kind of turned me on to that. But I'm the most influential person as far as that is concerned is John Peel.
Hmm.
Huge. I'd listen to Peel every night if I wasn't going out seeing a band. And he had such eclectic taste and great taste, and I'd just be continually like making notes. I couldn't afford to buy these things at that time. I'd actually record the show on a
Mhm.
cassette player, just stick a cassette in and press play and record, and listen to those tapes, really rough tapes,
How often was he on?
every night for like five nights a week.
Okay. And bring us a little bit to that experience because what I know nothing about that experience. Obviously, I know who you're referring to, but
Yeah,
was that just literally glued to the radio for what? How long was he on the air for?
2 hours.
Okay.
I think it was from 10 till midnight.
And just educating the masses, just really sharing his love for music and bringing awareness about new artists,
Yeah,
familiar. Yeah.
yeah, and hugely influential on musicians. And of course, his Peel sessions, that was something that you really as a musician, you like dreamed of doing a peel session. So when we got our first peel session, Bauhaus, we were elated. And it's also this kind of stamp of approval, from him, which meant a hell of a lot. And we did an early gig with him. He was DJing, and he
Yeah.
was very supportive and very encouraging.
So when did you actually become friends with Peter Murphy?
In 1978, when Daniel was rehearsing with him, making this new band, and they had a bass player, and Daniel asked me to come down and just give my opinion about the singer, because I don't know, Daniel, he wasn't sure. I don't know why he wasn't sure, but I think it's because Peter had never sung before, and he'd sort of plucked him really from obscurity. He was just working in a printer's uh, place, and never sang with the band. He chose him because he was his old schoolmate, and because he looked great. He said, "Oh, he looks great. I know, but I'm not sure his voice." No. So I went down and I saw this kid.
Yeah.
I was floored. I just knew he was a star, and I really want to be in the band. I wasn't in the band because it was Daniel's band. Because up until then, we'd had lots of different bands, and usually I was kind of like the one that got it together, and it was kind of they were kind of my bands in a way. I didn't see them like that, but I'd start them, and I'd be very not dictatorial, but just strong, like the direction of the band. And this was Daniel's baby. He wanted to be the one who directed it, and he had a vision for it, stripping everything down and making it very direct and forceful in that way. So yeah, I told him. I said,
So
he's
then,
solid gold, Daniel. No,
so
I
then,
didn't say I wanted to join it or anything. But then Daniel asked me very soon after that, and I said, yeah.
so then, how does your brother get involved?
He was already playing. He was playing with them. He was playing with Daniel and Peter and this bass player,
Yeah.
a bearded bass player. The
So
the beard had to go with the bass player, and he didn't want to shave off his beard, so he went.
Okay, so you're starting your career essentially is starting to begin. Is that fair to say? The seeds have been planted. At that time, what were
Yeah.
your parents thinking about that career? Were they kind of supportive, or were they like, you're not going to really go anywhere with this?
My mum was supportive. My dad was the opposite,
Hmm.
and yeah, he would. My dad would. I totally get where he was coming from. He would say, there's thousands like you out, David. What makes you think you're so bloody special? You know, you need to come down to earth, boy, and do a proper job. All that. So that made me try even harder, of course. You
Yeah.
know, so in a way, it was weirdly encouraging.
Was that a difficult relationship that you had with your father, if you wouldn't mind sharing?
Incredibly difficult. Yeah, it was basically war for several decades. But we made peace. We made a peace right at the end of his time, which was wonderful to do that. But he was not an easy man to make peace with or to get along with.
What uh, Jack says, same thing with my dad, and I'll raise my hand on that one. My dad, right before he passed, I was holding his hand, and he said, "William, are you still listening to that band?" And I said, "What band is that, Dad?" And he goes, "That band, 9 Inch Nails." I said, "I still am," because that music used to just drive him absolutely out of his mind. Um,
He never
so
came round.
he never came around. He had a Stanford Cardinal hat on. He was lying there, seeing the end, ready to go, and that's what he says to me as I'm holding his hand. I'll take those words any day
Wow.
because he still remembered from my high school days. So you had a difficult relationship with your father, and you made peace with him.
Should I lie down on the couch while you take notes?
Oh, if you have a drink, let's do it.
It's a bit early in the day for that, but
Um, that must
the
have felt
drink, not lying down on the couch.
that must have felt really nice.
What, lying down on the couch?
Well, that and also closing that
Being,
peace,
yeah.
having that peace with your father.
No, oh, yeah, it was very significant. Yeah, gratifying. Yes, yes.
So I asked you this when we were off camera a couple days ago. What is it that is in your father that's a little bit in you, maybe? I mean, I can tell you about my father and me, but I don't want to do that because that we're not here for that. But is there anything that, I mean, it could be positive too. This doesn't have to be an assault on your dad, but anything you want to share that he has instilled in you?
Well, he was very stubborn, and I'm very stubborn
Okay.
to the point of being bloody minded. I
Mhm.
think that was a huge thing. Yeah, I've been working on that. I
Yeah.
continue to work on it. I'm still stubborn, and sometimes bloody minded. But I do catch myself. I see myself doing it. I kind of step outside. I kind of like immediately step outside in the moment that it's happening and see it and put the brakes on it.
Yeah.
I think he found it very hard to even recognize it and to apply the brakes. And he was full of rage. I don't have the rage that he had. My rage was against him, but I understood it. I mean, God, we could get really deep into this. I mean,
I'm lying down, David. I'll listen.
I mean, and this happened. Okay, this happened in the last year that he was around, and that time when we did, found this piece. And I'd never asked him this before, and it's funny that I never asked him it, but I said, "What was your relationship like with your parents, Dad?" And he told me, and I was horrified because he was physically abused by his mother, like violently. Because when he came along, he was, I mean, all his sister and his brother were 12 years older than him, and he was an accident. He came along, and my granddad, who was a real ladies' man, like a likable rogue, and really went off when my dad came along with other women, and his mother blamed him, and so when he was an infant, would beat him up. She once kicked him down a flight of stairs when he was like 4, and I had no idea about this, so I understood where he was coming from now. This gave me, it was like a portal into understanding him, because I saw that he was, if we talk about like archetypes, he was the orphan archetype.
Mhm.
And I felt as like huge like sympathy and empathy for him. I've never felt that before. So this was a key to understanding why he had this rage, and he was a drinker, and when he got, drunk, it came out, and he'd take it out on me, man. So, but I understood it, so I had a completely different perspective on
What
him.
was it?
I understood that he was damaged, and why, and it's like a chain, that you can choose to break, and I chose to break that chain with my son, because my relationship with him is just completely different to what mine was with my dad.
So what does that mean? Does that mean when you feel like you're channeling your father's rage, stress, whatever it may be, you are pushing that aside, going, wait, that's not me. That's my father. I'm going to step out of that and
Yeah.
be more nurturing and loving towards my
Yeah.
son.
It is. It's not just him. It is me as well. But I recognize it
Yeah.
and step outside of it and stop it.
Wow. That takes a lot of discipline, right? And a lot of awareness that you have that ability.
It gets easier and easier.
Okay.
And in fact, and I very rarely now get into those rage states.
Mhm.
It gets better. And what another thing to help that is doing transcendental meditation.
How long you been doing that for?
Well, I really started doing it seriously just before the COVID,
Mm-hmm.
which was great timing
Yeah.
because I had that tool all the way through that, and I used it. It really helped. Like twice a day, just for 20 minutes, go and meditate and have a mantra there, which I never had before. I tried. I sort of dipped into different types of meditation, but never kept at it. But with this, I stuck at it, and it's been very helpful.
With
As
the
I say in one of the new Night Cricket songs, it dials back the road rage. Yeah,
in terms of having this experience with your father, I was just going to ask you, how does this manifest itself within your music, whether it be the album we just listened to, any other songs?
I haven't really thought about that. Uh,
Or maybe it just comes out subconsciously. It's not for,
yeah, I don't know the answer, but yeah, I
yeah.
haven't thought about it. I'll be
And
thinking about it now.
yeah, I say that because I'm a teacher. So
Yeah.
my dad had a very explosive temper. And
Mm,
so when I'm in the classroom with the students and I'm starting to feel that rage, that frustration, I
yeah,
can tap into a little bit of my father and go, wait, no, 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 no. They're just kids. They don't really know any better.
right.
And so I've been able to kind of reach into that, as you said, portal and go through that. Okay, so we're off the couch now. This is thank you for sharing that personal experience with your father. All right, so love Bauhaus starting to take shape, form, gaining attention. Did you know at that time, like, okay, I can actually move the needle one groove over and go, I can actually start making a career. This is what I really want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really what I wanted to do. I wanted to do it from age 14,
Yeah.
but it was realizing that I could do it
Yeah.
with this band because there's something special about it. And I never felt that before with any of the other bands or just on my own.
So that's what I want to get into right now is not so much the Bauhaus experience, but now your solo work. And after Bauhaus split was 82, 83.
83.
Okay. So then you start moving in your own independent work.
Yeah.
How did you have the confidence to do that? Or you just kind of went for it?
Well, I started getting ideas in Bauhaus for songs, music that wasn't. I didn't feel like it was a Bauhaus song, and this one's
Yeah.
not a Bauhaus song, and I want to sing this one, like on my own. I want to do it in a different way to Bauhaus. So I started recording the first album, Etiquette of Violence, when I was still in Bauhaus. And then when that band ended, I just carried on making that record. I mean, I don't know about confidence. I was just getting on and doing it.
Yeah.
But I did feel confident. Yeah, I believed in the songs. I thought the songs were solid.
And then so after Etiquette, then 9 years later, Urbane.
Yeah.
So tell us the real early seeds of that album. Like, what was the true inspiration?
Traveling, really,
Yeah.
on tour. And then when I'm on tour, I always try to go out and look, look around. I don't stay in the hotel. I'm like, I can't wait to get out of the hotel and go and sniff around the cities, drift through the cities, and soak up those places. Go to bars, just like walking down the street. So it's just like absorbing all the time, like
Yeah.
a sponge, like all these experiences in different places, and the atmosphere of different places, and making notes, on the road. And also, just like when a tour would end, I would just stay out, usually in America, and just travel around
Dude.
and just make notes or write songs. So those songs started to come together. That's why I say Urbane is it's like a travelogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love talking about the art covers, the album art covers. That was done by Mitch Jenkins. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mitch Jenkins, our old pal in Northampton, who's now become a very famous photographer. Brilliant eye, you know. He shot a lot of the early Bauhaus, and also the, the very early Love and Rockets, and photos. He did our first photo session, Love and Rockets. And I just thought he'd be perfect for Candy on the Cross, that video, because I wanted it to be very stripped down and black
Yeah.
and white and noirish, very stark.
Yeah.
And he
When
was
where was that video filmed?
uh somewhere in London, in the
Okay.
studio. And then we
Yeah.
used, he also took a lot of stills that day, and that's what we used for the album cover. I'm actually dipping into that trove again for a forthcoming release, which is an interesting one on Independent Project Records,
Okay.
and this should come out the end of this year.
Alrighty.
Kind of ambitious. It's a box set, and the label approached me asking if I had anything archival uh, to put out, and it just so happened that I just sent over like boxes of old demo cassettes to my friend Gabor Nemeth in Budapest, in Hungary, because he approached me. He said, I know you've got all these cassettes and they're just rot away. So can I digitize them for you? I said, sure. If you want to take on this Herculean task,
Yeah.
Gabor, I'll send them over. So I did. So I had all these nice, digitized files, and I sent them to the label, and they loved the idea. So that's what it's going to be. So it's a selection of all my demos, cassette demos from 1983, I think it's the
Yeah.
earliest one, to 2004, and three vinyl box
Uh,
set.
okay.
And each box is going to have, there's going to be different like levels of this release, but the super deluxe one is going to be 75, because there were 75 cassettes, and each box is going to have one of the actual cassettes.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And also I did some artwork for it, like an individual piece where I've used the cassette spool as a stencil,
Yeah.
and then sort of sprayed on that and then worked into it. So there's 75 of those, and a lyric sheet. This is causing me a great headache. Like going back, they were asking for a lyric sheet to decipher what the hell I'm singing about. I mean, I don't know what. I can't remember a lot of these songs. I cannot
Yeah.
have no memory of making them. I don't know what they're about. Some of them are pretty surreal and abstract anyway.
Sure.
but and they're kind of, you know, they're on old cassettes that I recorded in a back room somewhere. Most of these tracks are just acoustic guitar and vocal. Some of them piano and vocal. So yeah, I'm trying to decipher these
So
hieroglyphics.
this is coming out by the end of the year, you said?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's also
great.
it's going to be a CD edition. Yeah, but what brought me into this was that we're using some of the photos, outtakes from that same Urbane session
I see.
in the artwork,
Got it.
and
These are
the artwork is beautiful. Um, it's Bruce Lesher's, one of the guys at the label, and he's an artist in his own right, and he's a great printer. He uses these printing presses from the 1900s,
yeah.
and I mean each design, and it's very unconventional formats he comes up with. They're just exquisite. So it's going to look really nice. This, and
You
we just had it mastered at Third Man in Detroit, Jack
okay.
White's
Oh, nice.
place, and they've done a lovely job on it. Warren DeFever did the mastering.
Great. Well, look forward to that. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure you'll keep us abreast on that on your website, so on and so forth. There's some lyrics I just want to read to you from Urbane from some of the songs, and some lyrics have really resonated with me. I just love you have such an amazing ability to capture poetically and create this really strong image for me. Can't speak for anyone else, but um, here's one. This is got the devil strolling by his side. 20 songbirds taken for a ride. Backhanders for the man inside. The place in his head where the worlds collide. Writing lyrics for you is is that really an arduous process, or does it flow out of you?
it flows.
Yeah.
It's not arduous. It's no, it becomes a little arduous when I'm honing the
Okay.
lyrics, and I'll you know, agonize over just the little words that can change the whole thing,
Yeah.
like the is and are and the tense. But it's no, so it's very free flowing. I don't try to write songs; it just comes out. It's like it just states subconsciously and then comes out in one flow. And then that's the usual process for writing the song. I'll have the lyric first, and then once that's there, then the music comes very quickly as well. Kind of dictated the rhythm and the yeah, more the rhythm than anything of the words. The meter suggests the music.
Yeah. What was challenging about the making of this album based on memory?
Challenging. It wasn't really challenging. I didn't find it challenging. It was just flowing.
Yeah.
Um, it was not challenging. I had such great support, you know, from the musicians and from the engineers and the producers. You know, Nico Bolas, and who worked on the tracks on the West Coast, was terrific, great. Having T-Bone's input in there was invaluable.
Mac.
Joe Furler, the engineer in New York, recorded at East Side Studios, which was Hal Wilner's favorite studio, and Joe was Wilner's engineer. And
Okay.
I came to work there via Hal, who was working on his Mingus Weird Nightmare album at the time, inviting me down to check out the studio, and I just fell in love with it.
So, how did you get Peter Murphy to do some vocals for Candy on the Cross?
I just heard his voice on that. I mean, he sings a beautiful part on that. It's not. It's more than a backing vocal. It's it's a vocal in tandem with my vocal,
Yeah.
just a harmony vocal. I heard it, before I approached him, and I just called him up. And he was in London, so I sent him the basic track, and he liked it. And we went down to Blackwing Studio to do that, where we'd just been recording with Love and Rockets, doing the fourth album.
Okay.
It was just convenient because Peter was in London, so
So
everything was recorded apart from his vocal and that.
I need to know, just so I can go to sleep with this, knowing the truth. One of the things about Candy on the Cross has always struck me. You take these really stark, heavy lyrics, you have these amazing verses, and then you create this phenomenal, soaring, I don't want to say spiritual, but a very moving chorus
Mm.
that doesn't fit at all with the verses. Was that completely intended? Like
Yes,
a softening, if you will?
not a softening. That
No,
is, it's no. I mean, the verses describe the harrowing life of this young girl who
right.
turns to prostitution. They would Girls would come from all over the country to King's Cross and not basically not leave that area. I was staying there. I was living down there briefly,
Okay.
and I would see this every day. I'd see them. It was very, very sad. And then one day, I saw all these flyers everywhere about this girl had been murdered, and they were put up by the other girls. And then there was a news article about what happened, and she'd been killed in the Caledonian Road. The body had been found there. So I went back to my digs and wrote that song. But so the verses describe her horrible life, and then the chorus, I'm recognizing, there's no guardian angel in the Caledonian Road, but with the music, I want to send her into the light. It's like a prayer for that girl,
Okay. Okay.
and others like her who would possibly meet that
Yeah.
very unfortunate end. And it's, yeah, that's what that is.
That's one thing I really appreciate about the album, and I'm sure other fans do as well, is the way that you take us into the almost the mindset and these little vignettes of these people's lives that have been completely upended and obliterated. And you do in such a poetic way. Um, and I want to wrap up this conversation with I want to hear more about your take on the Hoagie Carmichael song. You
Okay.
admit, yeah, you
Yeah,
admit
well,
in your notes having a day off in New Orleans.
did you post any of those notes?
I did. They all should be in there. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
because I tell the little story there. Um, yeah, it was on the Lum Rockets tour in '89. We had a day off, and we all went out strolling around with Edna Holt, our singer, who's also singing on. She sings on Some Big City. Edna and I really hit it off on that tour, and she's great. She used to sing with Talking Heads and Brian Ferry. She's a statuesque African American lady with a fantastic voice, obviously. And so she augmented the band on that tour, mainly because of So Alive. We had her singing those backing vocals, but she played a keyboard as well. Anyway, she was out with us, and our tour manager Matt Murphy, who was great, and me, Daniel, and Kevin, and just strolling around. We went to Capel's restaurant at the start of the evening, which was a wonderful restaurant, and drank Cajun martinis, as it says in the song. And we just strolling around the French Quarter, and just encountering different characters on the way. And we ended up down by the Mississippi, and there was some street musicians who were jamming. There was a guy with an electric keyboard with batteries in it, and a guy with I think he had a little guitar. And then Edna somehow ended up singing Amazing Grace with these guys backing her, and it was most spiritual. I'm talking about spiritual, such a spiritual rendition of that song. And she sang out, she sent that song out over the Mississippi, and it was magical. Anyway, at the end of the night, we all kind of went our separate ways. And I still didn't want to go back to the hotel, so I just stumbled down in that same area and found this little bar. And I heard the piano from outside, and I went in, and this guy playing the piano, who was a local guy. He's playing blues, and then he went into Hoagie Carmichael, like I did a few, like a medley. And then he stopped playing, and he said, "I'm playing all these songs about New Orleans, written by Hoagie Carmichael. The thing is, he wasn't down here when he wrote those songs. He was in some big building in Tin Pan Alley, man, in New York City. In fact, Hoagie Carmichael never went to New Orleans." And when he said that, I thought, that's a song. I started writing it there and then at the table. I asked the waitress for a pen and paper. I started writing that. And that was with that. Hoagie Carmichael never went to New Orleans. And I just went from there. And I just started recalling all the things, the events of that night, encountering, in grifters and different characters, the buskers and Edna singing. And that came together really quick.
There's to all these little narratives to this album, there's a great flow from track to track. How much emphasis and time do you put into the track sequence, the order?
Oh, that's really key.
Yeah.
That is something I do agonize over.
Okay.
That has to be right for it to tell the story properly. And it's like editing a film.
Yeah.
That's very key. And even like the gaps, those milliseconds between, or seconds between the gap, the tracks, it's crucial. I'm talking as a boomer now. I will never get past this, and I don't want to, because I've been brought up with albums that had a sequence and a feel. And it's hopefully it's not becoming a lost art. I was fearful that it was at one time, and that's really why I said with my last album it'll be the last one, that Missives album, because I was feeling like this is maybe becoming a lost art. And just new generations, they have no concept of this. They just play something on Spotify, or they stream stuff, YouTube. But I've met quite a few young people on tours, and they're really into albums, and it's restored my faith. My son, he's not ever so young now, he's like 35, but he loves albums and really appreciates the sequence of an album. So it's restored my faith. So therefore, I've nearly completed a new solo album. I can't get away from it.
Yeah.
So,
did you do extensive touring for Urbane?
No, not extensive, but I did do one tour of the States with opening for PJ Harvey.
Okay. Oh.
And I added some of MCA added some other dates on that tour.
And how was that?
It was great.
Yeah.
It was really good, and we got on well, with them. And it was simpatico. They couldn't turn up. They had a visa problem, so they missed the first date. Can't remember off the top of my head where that was. I've got it written down somewhere in my diary. But at that time, but they didn't turn up, so the promoter gave us an option of either just blowing off the gig and having a night off, or playing it just on our own. This was me, Max, Owen, and a bass player, Mr. Wallenetz. So we elected to play the gig. They had a sign up where outside the venue where you could get your money back if you wanted, or not. But we had a good little crowd there, so I thought I came up with this ploy, which was a bit of a brave move, but it paid off. Which was to open the set with a cover, a PJ Harvey cover.
Nice.
So in the dressing room, we worked on a version of "Oh My Lover," that song, and it just really did the trick. Completely won them over. And then they made it to the second gig, PJ Harvey, and the first thing she said to me when she met me was she loved the fact Polly loved the fact that I opened the set with that song, and that kind of that bonded us.
I
The fact
see.
I'd done that, so we
Yeah.
had a very nice rapport for the tour, and they were great. And she's amazing, force of nature. You know.
I've never seen her live, and I have to ask you before we wrap this up and take some questions from the audience here. Are there some memorable shows that you want to share with us? Concerts that you've been to? I know you've been to probably so many, but any ones that kind of just stand out?
Uh,
Like a Spaceman, you mentioned Spaceman 3 or a
yeah.
Spiritualized.
The Ramones at the Roundhouse in
Oh,
London in 1976
nice,
stands out.
nice.
Oh God.
Did you ever see the Clash?
Yeah, I saw the Clash open for the Sex Pistols at the same year at the 100 Club, 76. Before we knew who the Clash were, they were just like the opening band. They came on and blew my mind and my brother's mind. And that's when we started our punk band that night because of that. And then the Pistols came on and like, forget about it.
Yeah.
They opened with Anarchy in the UK. And it was so great. Very loud. So there's a couple for you. We should get into the questions because this is so in depth, which is great. And it's been wonderful. But I'm just looking at time here, my friend. And I'm having to put back things all the time.
So
But we can do the Q&A.
if anyone has a question for
Okay,
David.
got some water. Excuse me.
Yeah, while David gets some water, we're going to wrap this up. Yeah, people are dropping comments here. So if you have a question for David, let us know. And for most of you probably know that Love and Rockets are going to be touring, starting with the Cruel World Festival. Oh, we got a question from Liz here. And then get to Zach. While we're waiting for David, just to let you know, our next event is actually tonight at 10 p.m. I'll be speaking with Tim Kosh, Ian Masters, ex Pale Saints singer. They formed a band called Isolated Gate. So that will be at 10 p.m. tonight. Ian will be tuning in from Osaka, Japan, and Tim from Adelaide, Australia. So another special opportunity to speak with artists at their highest creativity level. All good questions coming in. Hopefully you have enjoyed this experience. Thank you so much for your time, everyone, particularly David. All right, David, we have a few questions here. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
We'll get you out of here. All right. Liz wants to know what inspired you to play fretless.
I went into a music shop in Northampton in 1976 and saw this bass on the wall, and it just looked really sexy. I just liked how it looked. And I asked if I could play it, and the guy in the store, he didn't want me to play it. He said, "No, kid, you don't want to play this. You don't want to play that. That's a different thing. You need frets. You haven't been playing long. It's like." So since he said that, of course, I was determined to play it.
Yeah.
And in the end, he got it down. I can have a go then. That's a whole different animal to what you're used to. And as soon as I started playing it, I loved it. I said, no, it's great. And with great satisfaction, I said, I'll take it.
Nice. Vincent asked, what's your favorite solo LP that you've done in no particular order?
In no particular order. What does he want me to go through the whole lot and in
Oh, no.
listen? Vincent. I don't know. I mean, that changes. It changes with time. I don't know. It's usually I like the last one that I've done
Okay.
best, you know, and that is the case. Not to say it's better than the others. It's just I'm closer to it because I've recently done it, so it's missives at the
Got it.
moment. But I have I have affection for all of them. They all spark memories, pretty fond memories on the whole, aside from possibly estranged because that was a very hard time. You know, that
Yeah.
came through real lot of pain. But you know, it was a process of working through that pain. As they all are to some degree. I mean, they're not all about pain, but that one was.
Dimitri wants to know, what is the significance of chest expander in the insert photo?
Yeah. That was just my wry little joke of,
Okay.
I mean, of going out into facing the big city and getting ready, you know. And I was so super skinny in those days. I just thought it was very comical. This stick insect with these chest expanders. So yeah, it's humor.
Yeah. Will Love and Kai says, will Love and Rockets tour Europe?
There's no plans at the moment.
Okay.
Not to say it can never happen. Personally, I would love that.
Yeah.
But Daniel and I have a lot of other things going on, so it's kind of logistically very hard. It was hard to work out these dates, the US dates. But you never know. It's not impossible.
We're going to do one more here.
Okay.
Is Codex Rock says, is there a part 2 of Who Killed Mr. Moonlight?
Well, the book, you're referring to the book.
I'm assuming that's
Yeah. There could be an addendum.
okay.
Not part 2. I mean, there is a book on the back burner. This is more to do with Love and Rockets. It won't be anything to do with Bauhaus. Love and Rockets, and also this period, the Urbane period of solo work, because it's a particularly rich time, not just for the music, but other experiences that were going on that fed into that music. Okay. So that's something, you know, on the back burner.
Do you want to plug anything about your other work with Victor and Darwin as the Night Crickets?
Night Crickets, yes. Well, we're very much immersed in the world of Night Crickets at the moment because we've nearly completed our second album, and we're just tweaking the final mixes and getting the sequence right, which, as you know, is absolutely essential. Yeah. And I love working with those guys, and it's all been remote. I mean, we haven't been in the studio together at all, but it's worked out that way. It was that way out of necessity because we started during the COVID times. Yeah. And also, I mean, logistically as well. I mean, geographically speaking, we're not exactly around the corner. But we feel that this album is a real evolution, and it's gone into a very deep, dark, psychedelic place.
Okay.
And it's quite a work this. So we're very excited about it.
David J, thank you for your time. Oh, Liz says we want a Night Crickets tour.
Yeah, well, that's a tricky one because it was such a studio project, you know, and I kind of like the idea of just leaving it as the studio albums, you know. I mean, it would be impossible really to recreate those tracks. Not to say that, you know, that's the only way that you could do that music, because you can always come up with different ways of performing songs, and we do it all the time in the other bands. But it's such a particular, like, it's a very much a studio project, that, so it's unlikely.
Okay. Tomorrow, Record Store Day, everyone. See if you can get that Urbane album in your hands.
I'd like one in my hands myself.
I know. I can't believe that.
Maybe I'll be lucky.
I think there's only 1,500 that were pressed.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so do what you can, everyone. And big round of applause to David J. for being a special guest on this really special event. So thank you for your time. And thank you, everyone. My name is W.A.K. William, High R on the Edge. And again, tonight we have another event, Isolated Gate at 10 p.m. Take care. Enjoy. Peace. Thank you, David.
Thanks, everybody.